Good morning, everyone. We are today going to learn how to use circular patterning to make a wall clock. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is create a sketch. I'm going to create a sketch on this front face so I can kind of see it as a wall clock. And then what I'm going to do is just create a shape and then just start playing and see how things go. So first I'm going to create a polygon. And I'm just going to draw one anywhere. I've got some choices to make now. So one is I need to make it how big. I need to think about how big it's going to be. The second is how many sides it's going to have. So I'm actually going to start with a 7-sided polygon. So to hit tab, and the next thing tells you how many sides. So 7. I can do 27, and 27 looks like a circle because there's so many little sides in there. You can see when you zoom in, you can see them. So I'm actually going to go back to 7. I think that's a nice number for this, and I'm going to hit enter. So the more sides you have, the more complex your overlapping pattern will be, and the more little facets and holes and weird shapes there'll be in there. So if you like that look, more sides. If you don't like that look, fewer sides. Okay. You could just use a circle or any shape you wanted. Now, I didn't place this anywhere. I just kind of threw it on the sketch somewhere. So now I need to start placing it. So first thing I'm going to do is say, hey, you know what? I want to use my coincidence tool and say that this corner I want to be at the origin. So now I've got it pinned there nicely. And yeah, so I probably want the center of, I don't know, I think I'm going to try to have this. So I'm going to draw a construction line next, because this is how I'm going to place the orientation of the shape. And I'm going to just draw a construction line straight up. Escape. And I'm going to do a coincidence tool. I'm going to say I want this corner to be straight up like this. This will give me kind of a wobbly offside. I chose a 7-sided one, so it's not perfectly symmetric. So I think that might look interesting. I'm going to give that a shot. And then the last thing I want to do is figure out how big this is going to be. So our laser cutter can go up to about 30 inches. So if you stay at about 29.5 inches, centimeters, sorry, 30 centimeters. So if you go to 29.5 centimeters, that's pretty good. So I'm going to do about half of that. So to do that, I'm going to hit the D for the dimensioning tool. This is my highest point, so I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click down to the center where it's fixed to, and I'm going to make this 29.5 divided by 2. Because this is going to be half, I'm going to swing it around. And there it is. So that's my actual size of it. Now, I want there to be holes in this. I could just pattern this out and just get a solid face with like a sort of a scallopy, weird edge to it. I could do that. But I want this to be sort of like pieces of wood. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose the offset tool. I'm going to click on my shape, and I'm going to drag it in, turn off my construction line, and I'm going to choose how wide that's going to be. That's going to be the bars that are going to kind of go around. And I might just say, I'm going to 0.75, except I wanted negative because I've already set the outside dimension of my thing. If I put this on the outside, it's going to be too big for the laser cutter. So enter. So now I've got that. I'm just going to do a quick extrusion. Well, before I extrude, let me go ahead and add in a parameter, and I'm going to add a thickness parameter. And what I would want to do is measure, take several pieces of plywood that I'm going to use for the project, squish them together with a clamp, measure the thickness of those several pieces, and then put that data in here. So let's say I did, it was 1.935, and it was 7 pieces I measured. So I would do that divided by 7, and that would give me the thickness of the material. So always measure your material. Each batch of plywood is different. And each manufacturer makes it to a slightly different thing. With plastics, they're way better at making consistent sizes, so you can just trust the label on a piece of plastic of how thick it is. And click OK. Awesome. So now I've got a thickness stored, so I can actually extrude this. I'm going to extrude this and just choose this band here. And I'm going to extrude it. It's going in for some reason. That's interesting. I'm going to extrude a thickness. Doesn't really matter which way I extrude it. So now I've got my first piece. So now here's where the magic starts to happen. We're going to take this piece and we're going to rotate it around. There's a few things to think about when you're doing this. First of all, clocks have 12 positions. So oftentimes it's nice to have a multiple of 12 rotations. So 3, 4, 6, 12, 24, those are all good because they'll kind of line up with your eyes about where the hour hand would be. Although you could use any number you wanted, it's not going to ruin anything. Okay. So next thing I want to do is I want to do a create pattern. I'm going to choose circular pattern. It's going to ask me what I want to pattern. I won't want to pattern just a face. I want to pattern an entire body because I want this whole thing to roll around. And then I'm going to select the object. That's the object I want to pattern. The axis. This part's tricky. So what I want to do is I want this to rotate around the screen in this way. So my axis is actually coming out of the screen at me. And I want it to be like, here's the pole, and it's going to rotate around the pole like this. So kind of think of like a tetherball kind of situation. So what I want to do, click on axis, and now I got to choose the axis I want to do. So the axis I want is I want it to rotate around in this direction. So I want it to rotate around this green one here. Now, if I chose the wrong one, no big deal. Check this out. Boom. I click this one, and then I go back to flat front, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that wasn't right. That's like sticking up in the air. I don't want that one. So I would unselect that axis, and I would say, okay, what about the blue one? What is the blue? Oh, wait. Oh, no, that's a mess, right? That's like tipping in that direction. That is really cool, but that's not what I'm building right now. But that gives me an idea for building other things. So I'm going to unclick that one. I'm going to say, okay, what the green one now? And then I'm going to go back up to the front view and be like, okay, yeah, that's more like what I wanted, right? So now I've got to figure out how many things I want to have. So that's 4. That looks pretty cool. And that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 looks pretty gnarly. I'm digging that. So you could keep rolling up and down wherever you'd wanted to go. At this point, it's just aesthetic. It's like what you want it to look like. You could also go back to your original drawing and not just do one simple shape. You could combine some shapes and make a more complex pattern and then pattern it out that way. So I'm going to go up to, and you'll start seeing what happens as you get up to really high numbers. So I'm going to go all the way up to 24. And you can start seeing there's actually some pretty interesting shapes going on in there. I'm kind of digging that as well. I don't know where I would stop. This to me seems too far. Like these little holes are going to be hard for the laser to cut really well because they're getting pretty small in there now. Although I like this spire look right here. That's actually pretty cool. I'm going to click OK on this one. And it just did that for us. So that is pretty awesome. But all these black lines aren't real things, right? They're just like things overlapping things. They're not actually going to get printed or be seen. So next thing I need to do is take all these, because right now they're all individual shapes overlapping each other. I need to combine them all. So if I look over here in my bodies folder, I've got a ton of bodies here. So what I want to do is merge all of these into one body. So I'm going to say combine tool. Instead of cut, I'm going to select join. And I'm just going to select this one as my, it doesn't matter which one. I'm going to select the first one as my target body because I'm joining them. It's all the same thing. I'm going to select body 2 as a tool body and then go down to the bottom of my list here. Hold down the shift key. And that will select all of them. And then I'm going to click OK. And that's going to merge them together. And wherever they're overlapping, they're going to become one piece. Or maybe that's not going to work. Why didn't that work? Join. Oh, I kept the kept tools. Oh. All right, so I'm going to undo that. So what happened is it joined them, and then underneath that join, or on top of that joint, it kept all of the other pieces as well. So you can see in here, I'll show you body 1. This is kind of confusing what it did. So body 1, I'm going to do a move on it. You can see what I did. You can see it really clearly now. Okay. This is the one that I merged together, but because I had keep tools selected, it kept all the individual ones as well. So I definitely do not want that. So I'm gonna Control Z. Actually, I'm just gonna drag this cursor back to here, right click and delete everything after that. So I just undid the combine tool. So let me redo that combine tool. It's target body, I'm going to choose that as my target body. The tool bodies all the way to the bottom of the list. Hold down shift, that highlights everything. Take a second. I'm going to unclick keep tools and click OK. Awesome. So now I have all of this. I'm gonna look at this edge right here. That's actually kind of cool looking. I'm okay with this. So now what I need to do is I need to make sure two things. I need to grab a clock components, the little clock thing, and I need to measure how wide the hole is in the middle, and I need to measure how wide the body is, and make sure that it's wide enough to not poke out through any of these holes here. If there were some holes in the middle that I needed to cover up, I could just draw a circle on top of this. So I would go like this. I would say, all right, so actually I would click here to create a sketch. Okay. And be careful if you use a whole bunch of patterns, it has to keep track of all of that. So right now it's got 33 objects on top of itself, or however many I chose. What I would do if I need, so let's say that my clock component, the little thing on the back of the clock, is actually is bigger, and I need to cover up some of this. In this case, I might just add a circle here, and I might just go to there, say that was wide enough to cover up the back of the clock. Then I would just extrude that circle and all these little pieces. And I won't do it all, I'll just show you on a couple of them. So I would go around and select all those little pieces, but then I would extrude it in the, it would be a negative extrusion of a thickness. Negative thickness, enter. And it's going to assume I want to cut, but instead I would just say join and click OK. And again, I've got so many different patterns in there. This is actually going to take a little bit of time for it to figure out, because it has to go back and rebuild it based on all those patterns. Awesome. But when that's done, what it's going to do, it's going to have filled in all these little, there you go, now you can see it. Anything I clicked on now has filled those in, so it would cover up that back. You just want to make sure that the gears and stuff in the back of the clock aren't visible through the face of your clock. All right, and that's it. Like, one thing I would do when you were making this is I would cut two of these and I would glue them back to back. One thickness of that 1/8" plywood will tend to warp over time. If you get two together, it tends to stay nice and flat for a long period of time. All right, so some other things to think about when you're doing this. So this is a flat face. It's a flat surface face. I'm going to go ahead and undo all of this and head back. All right, and I'm going to actually leave my initial drawing. I'm just going to reuse that same drawing. Perfect, just like that. And this is where I'm going to go back, and you can have whatever pattern you want here, but I want to show you a different technique. So I want to think now three-dimensionally. So instead of just rotating the pattern out, I want to actually raise it up and do multiple levels of it. So I'm going to do 4 layers thick. Start layer in the back, layer on top, rotate it a little bit, layer, layer, all the way out. So what that means is I want to create a pattern that I can repeat 4 times, 3 more times. So I'm going to still do a circular pattern. So I'm going to create a pattern and go circular. I'm going to click here, circular pattern bodies, one object selected. Now the axis I need to select, I'm going to select that green one, and I'm going to go 4. So if I do 4 layers and 4 of them, that's going to give me 16 total. but I think it might look cool. So I'm going to give it a shot. And the nice thing about this project is that it's easy to see what it looks like and then go, nah, that's not working. Go backwards and see what something else looks like and kind of choose from your favorites. If you're going to do that, I would recommend not doing what I did, which is undoing everything, but saving it and then just doing another one, just making multiple files, repeating with changes and things. That way, if in the end you're like, oh man, that first one maybe was the best one ever, you can just go get it instead of having to try and recreate it. I'm going to click OK here. So now I've got these 4. This is going to be my base layer, and then I'm going to rotate the rest of them. So now what I want to do is I'm going to merge these together. So I'm going to do a combine tool. I'm going to click on this one as the target, these as the tool bodies, join, uncheck keep tools, and click OK. That's my first layer. Now I want to create my next layer. So to do that, actually, maybe I don't want to do that. I'm going to try something different. So I want to keep this exact same shape, but just raise it up some. So let's just try to do a move copy and do a create new. So I'm going to do M for move. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on the center here. I want to click on the center because I'm going to want to rotate it. I want to rotate it around the center. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to do create a copy, and then I'm going to move it up just to figure out which one up is. And up is the Z distance one. So the distance I want to move it up is just one thickness up, right? So I'm going to type in thickness here, and then I'm going to rotate to the front view and grab this handle, and I want to rotate it. Now I'm going to do 4 of these layers. So the question is, how much do I rotate it? Well, I want to rotate it 1/4 of the way around. So 360 degrees is one circle. Divide by 4, you get 90 degrees. So each one should be rotated 90. Oh, but then they match up on each other. So maybe I'm going to rotate each one 45, 45, and click. But then the next one's going to rotate down on top of that one. Ooh, that's interesting. So now I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try, so all the 45. So I can put, there's one here, one there, one there, one there, one there. But then they'll overlap with each other. Ooh, this is a fun problem. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. I'm going to live with this one right there. And I'm going to leave that layer as a separate layer. So notice I have body 1. So this is, this is layer 1. And make sure. Oh man, I can't tell. Which one's on top? The blue one? The blue one's on bottom. Yeah, so layer 1. And this one's layer 2. And now I'm just going to do that again. I'm going to select layer 2, and I'm going to do a move copy command. I'm going to click bodies instead of faces. And oops, I got to reselect. And I'm going to select right on that middle point here. Otherwise, it will rotate on a different axis. And I think it was the Z that was before, so let's assume it's the same one. And we're going to move it up we're going to create a copy first. We're going to move it up a thickness. And then we're going to rotate it to some, I don't know. Let me look straight from the front, make sure I can see it. I don't know, so then I'm just going to play around until I find something that I think looks cool. I think my problem was I started with 4 of these shapes. And let's see, so that is the starting one. That's the second one. Maybe this one, 135 would be, yeah, so it's going to overlap in that direction. So I may have messed myself up by starting with 4 of them. But you can see the process, like it's going to overlap every one of these. So maybe then I got to go a halfway point. So halfway between 180 and 225. So I'm going to say, let me do some math real quick. So 225 plus 180 is 405 divided by 2. 202.5 is halfway. So I'm going to say 202.5. And then say enter. All right. And now, so I think I need another one still to fill the thing in. Oh, that looks pretty cool. And you can see now it's dimensional. So it's going to come out from each other a little bit. The other nice thing about this is I can easily change the color. So when I print that, when I cut this out, I'll cut out each layer separately. So I can make one layer one color, another layer another color, and play around with different ideas and components here. I'm going to do one more. Again, I'm going to move copy this body right on the center. There it is, right on the center. And the Z distance, whoops, create a copy first. Z distance is going to be thickness. Whoops, I hit too many enters, so I'm going to right click down here. I went out of the move tool before I rotated it. I'm going to choose edit feature, and that'll allow me to rotate it again. Although, no, that's the center of rotation. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to Control Z and undo that, create a copy, and just recreate the copy. So I want to move, I'm going to click on this one. Create a copy, bring my Z up a thickness. Oh, I did it again. I'm going to make it work. So edit feature, there's got to be a way to change this somewhere else. Selection, one selected. Maybe in the rotation menu, axis, there it is. So now I can select the axis, which I want. Okay, this was a bigger pain than I was hoping it would be. So I want this to be the axis. Sorry. And then I'm going to grab it and rotate it. Now I've got some rotation going on here. So like there-ish. Is that, no, that's not covering up one. I think that might be it. Okay. Yeah, now I've got something going on here. So now I've got... Wait, did I not? Oh, I did not raise it out of it. All right, hang on. Right click. Edit feature. I'm still only counting 3 layers. So these two are inside of each other. I just screwed up somewhere. I'm going to undo until I get back to somewhere that I think is reasonable. That one. That one. Are there 3 layers there? Oh my gosh. Yeah, all right, so I'm back to 3 layers now. I'm back to where I'm supposed to be. Now I'm going to redo that move command for the 4th layer. Sorry about being so clumsy with all of this. There, I'm going to say create a copy. I'm going to bring the Z out a thickness. And then I'm going to come back to the front. And I'm going to rotate this one to a place that feels reasonable, which should be here somewhere. Yeah, that's it right there. And it's at a 45, so it's this nice even thing. So I think that's good. And I'm going to click OK. Now that's exactly what it was supposed to look like. Good. So now I've got 4 different layers, and I can start playing around with some. You can see all 4 layers there on the side. I can start playing around with some ideas for color. So I'm going to do A for appearance. That'll bring up the appearance menu. I'm going to come down here to paint and choose one of these paint. I'm going to go with a metal flake, and I'm going to choose this back layer, this layer 1, to be black. Okay, and then I'm going to say, you know what, I want to go with like a gold paint maybe on layer 2, and then layer 3, I want to be white, and then maybe, you know, maybe a glossy. Let's see what colors they have. And if there's like a little download arrow here, you have to download the color before you can use it. So just go ahead and download it. And I'm going to go with no, I don't want a gray. maybe, I don't know. I'm going to put a green just to see what it looks like. Although I don't know if I'd ever print something green. So that would be the end look of all this. Now, one thing I do notice is that there's no way my clock mechanism is going to be hidden by this center part. So now I need to go in and actually fuse all of that together to hide the clock part. And to do that, what I'm going to do is just click on the top layer. I'm going to create a sketch on this top layer right here. I'm going to measure my clock part out to see how big it has to be. And then I'm going to decide where to put that. And it might be kind of cool that it touches these. So like there's one, see how there's a point there too? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe an 8-sided polygon. Let's try that real quick. So I'm going to click here. That's a circle though. Escape. And it's probably going to need to go beyond that, but let's try it out. I'm going to say polygon. I don't care which one it is. Center it there. And now I'm trying to figure out kind of a good place to stop it that's sort of consistent across, you know, that makes sense in terms, so like right here would be a great place. And then I could make it enough size to where it would tap up. So I think it was like a 9-sided. No, it's got to be an even number, 8. Yeah, so you can see 8 right now, how the 8-sided one would hit all these corners just right, but I still think that's going to be too small. So what I might want to do actually is, that might still look nice. So I'm just trying to stay in the middle here. And what I'll do to be sure I'm exactly in the middle is once I got there, I just make some lines. So I would say out from here, construction lines, to about here. I'm going to dimension this line to 2.5. This is the wrong dimension. This is the vertical. I want the actual length of the line. So I'm going to get out of that, escape, delete that one, and then come here. And you can see that's what I'm looking for. See how now it's parallel with the line I drew? I'm going to make that line 2.5, enter, and I'm going to do another line. Still a construction line along this edge. And I'm going to do 2.5 there. Enter. Now those two are lined up, so I'm going to do one straight across it. And I'll show you why I just did all that work. Boom, just like that. And then what I want to do is one more line that's perpendicular to this one. So I'm trying to find this center line in between these two green ones. So I'm going to go right to the middle here, go up until it's 90 degrees, just like that, and then hit escape. Now I've got a line. This dashed line right here is exactly in the middle between these two, between this V space in here. So I'm going to say I want to do a coincident tool. I want to take this. I want to make it with that. Coincident with that line. And now it is coincident with that line. Is that true? Yep. Okay. Which it already was. I'd lined it up pretty well. It was pretty close already, but that's pretty good. And then the other thing I can do now is I can just dimension out the size of this and watch what happens when I do that. So if I hit dimension and I just grab one of these sides, or better yet, escape. Maybe I'm going to dimension from one side to the other. From this corner to this corner. I'm going to do a dimension. And the dimension I want is that one. Right there. So that's how far across it is. So here, I don't know how big it is, how big you have to measure it. But let's say it was 12 centimeters. Enter. And when I did that, it would draw out my rectangle to 12 centimeters. It's not that big. That's way too big. I'm going to say 8 centimeters. That's more like it. And once that's done, I would say finish sketch. And then I'm going to extrude. And I'm going to extrude this piece and all these other pieces in here. And I want to extrude this down just the one layer of the green, because that will hide my back. If I wanted that extrusion to go down through all the layers, I could actually do that and merge them right now, but that would make it so that I wouldn't be able to rotate them later. So I'm going to do this as negative thickness and do a join command. And you'll see it turns that thing green. And I'm actually going to turn off the other layers first, because if it's touching the other layer, it's going to fuse it. I'm going to say okay. Now that's enough to block the first one. If I wanted to do layer 2, I would just go, I'll do it real quick for you. So that'll block it, but from the edge, you'll be able to see kind of underneath it. If you wanted to be a solid piece all the way through, you could come here and say, turn on layer 2, turn off layer 1, do a quick sketch on the surface of layer 2, and then do a project command, turn back on this one and project. Yeah, maybe that wouldn't work that well. Yeah, we'll project that and see what happens. Turn off layer, say okay, we projected that top layer onto the bottom one. And now I need to extrude out all of these, but I need to fill that line in on each one of these. So I need to go here to here. And all this does is just make sure that your rectangle is the same on, or your polygon here is the same on all your layers. Okay, and now I extrude, and I would just extrude. Well, actually, I don't need that middle piece. I just need these. Right, so I can actually turn that middle piece off if I wanted to, and just turn on all the holes and go negative thickness, enter, and that time it's going to guess join and click OK. Now I just did that layer. I can keep going down layer to layer and finish all those layers off. Okay, so I'm going to turn the layers back on. You can kind of see what we have going on here. And that would be our finished clock. Thinking in terms of layers now. Play with it, have fun with it, create something really unique and interesting looking. I look forward to seeing what you figure out. You also might want to think about, like with the laser, you can actually add numbers here. So you might want to think about positioning locations for numbers. So if you're going to do 12 different locations, you would locate them, like the first one would be straight up for 12. And then the next one would be 30 degrees off from that, and then 60, and then 90, and then 120, and all the way around. If you want to like draw a circle and have a circle there where you could put a number on it, engrave a number into it. So lots of things to think about with clocks. All right, awesome. Have fun, enjoy it, and let me know if you have any questions.